Hello and welcome back to AdaPulse, the community-funded news channel keeping you up to date with everything Cardano. And because we are community-funded, there is no coin chilling, there is no pay promotion, we don't even discuss token price. On today's episode of Exploring Cardano, we're back with Damon from Charli3 to discuss their new V2 update. I hope you enjoy. Great. So you've been fairly busy recently. Do you want to give us a quick rundown of what you've been up to?
Man, I'm assuming this is on the Charli3 side. You mean, like what we've been up to? Not me personally.
Yeah.
No, it's basically just a lot of work. I mean, right now, the network upgrade, I'm just calling it the Valentine's upgrade to Cardano, happened on the 14th, and that was, I think, a good update, but a lot of people didn't really notice it, and I think that's just bear market sentiment that nobody's really paying attention to too much as far as exciting things like that. But for us, it made a big impact because we had to refactor our Oracle systems a bit, and it instead of updating before that update and then having to redo it again, we just planned everything coming up to that update. So the dev team was really good in staying ahead of it. So our V2 Oracle solution, which had a lot of updates and upgrades to it, came out on that same day right after the hard fork happened. So we are set and ready and up to date with everything, ready to go. So that's what the last update was all about.
Sure, yeah. Do you want to just explain, like, as you said, a lot of people sort of glossed over the fact that there was a fairly major update on Valentine's Day. Do you want to go over, like, what that update actually was and sort of what that means for Charli3?
I mean, I'm not really super familiar with what the network upgrade was. I only know what our own systems are capable of. So I can't really speak to what the network upgrade was, unfortunately. I mean, I just leave that to the dev team primarily.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I focus on, okay, we have an update for other things. Let's tell all the partners. That's kind of my idea. So, but as far as I know, how it happened for us, like one major thing was the way that this new structure works in with the reference inputs that we're using. That it was able to lower the cost of our Oracle by a fair amount. We're still testing on how much, because it's network cost differences. But I mean that's a big deal too, right, for us as an operational company. But one of the things I'd like to go over is just maybe like what this big difference is to us switching from our Oracle version 1 to version 2. The primary thing was that we were running on Plutus version 1 before, which didn't have really a lot of access to the Basel hard fork features from before, which was reference scripts, reference inputs, and inline datums. And now we have all of that. So we upgraded Plutus version 2, which is very exciting because a lot of these projects need these different things. We already had reference inputs, so the data could be read on chain with our datum format. But the other two features, which help a lot of transactional situations, were not active. So now they are, which is pretty sweet, I would say. Another thing that most people don't understand, and I had this problem in our chats right afterwards, that people were asking about the number 2 on this list, which is new NFT set. And the thing is, people thought, oh, that's your NFT project, and it's like, no. NFTs are not art. Technically, NFT is just the code, right? Attributed to some art piece or said car or said set of data. Our sets of data after the aggregation through the node network is an NFT, basically, right? It has an NFT set to it to make sure that it's untamperable, and that's what it is. So that goes on chain. So basically, we wanted to just tell people that the NFT format that we're using is the same. We just had to mint basically a new set for this new version of the Oracle. So nothing's really changed much there, but it's just showing that security, that we're bringing the proper things forward that we need to. And then, yeah, like I said, the validator was Plutus V1, Plutus V2, which makes all of these things more possible. But by far the biggest thing that I think we've changed is our node operation from just being an aggregate of basically one source. And what people might not get from this is like, oh, well, if you're only taking from one source, what's the problem? It's that we take, 5 nodes taking from one source, which is what the original version was, uh, to make sure that each or either one of those nodes can't uh, produce a bad value when it's pushed on chain. It can't be tampered with, or if it is, there's the redundancy of the other 5. So that's the security
Hmm.
in a node network versus what projects are currently doing and just taking from that single source and then writing it on chain themselves, which is
Yeah.
horrendously unsafe. So from our side, we want to improve that, especially after talking more with other customers and able to push that out to 5 different data sources with each 5 node aggregation. So each one of these nodes will be taking from 5 different sources at the same time. So it super increases the security and validity of the data that actually gets pushed on chain, which is obviously what you want from an Oracle solution, I would hope.
Right. So in a way, you've got like the aggregate of 25 different sources, basically compared to five,
Yeah,
in an essence.
yeah, I would say that it increases that security by like a 5-fold measure for sure. Yeah, and we have the capability to run more nodes and more data sources and more uh, uh, sets of data. Like right now we're just doing the ADA USD, and that's mainly
Mm.
just because nobody needs anything more than that, right? The redundancy in our 5 node network taking from multiple sources of this data is so much more advanced than anything else that's there that we don't need to make it more until somebody else may want more. But I think just really a lot of education needs to go out on this. We have a lot of uh, technical documentation is coming right away. We're basically just editing it. Um, our developers aren't English speaking natives typically. So the documentation is actually quite good for what it is, but just to make sure that phrasing is proper and things are consistent, we're just editing that right now before that goes out so people can understand more about how the system works and what we're doing. Because I do believe that we have been lacking on that, pretty heavily for a long time. But we run a small team. The dev resources are very valuable to us, so we prioritized getting a product out instead of taking time to write about said product that
Sure,
we might get.
yeah, sure. The last thing you want is your devs wasting most of their time writing up pages and pages of documentation. You want to get the project out.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we focused on for the last while, and we're like the last year really. Is every time there's a new update, we really just focused on getting that done with, and getting that product out and make sure it's running. And now that it is and fully updated and everything, we had some time to work on documentation. So it's been great. I'm really excited to get that out finally and share a lot more of that technical side because we don't have that front facing platform, right? We have to show to people that we're technically capable, a lot, like the much more than any other project. It shouldn't be that way, but that's
Yeah,
how it is. So education on what we're able to do, why the security is important, why the redundancy is important, why having this feed up and running for so long already, like 4+ months. Maybe that's not long as far as oracles go. However, it's long for Cardano because there's really not
yeah.
much live on Cardano. Is really important to show other projects in the community that it's trusted because say you're using your platform like it's going to be liquid or even stable coins that come up or meld in the future, you want to know that whatever process is running those values is safe even as a front end user. Or like some people will know that we run those systems, other people won't, but either way the other platform has to be trusted. And right now I can't say that they are. I mean, we have plenty of messages from community members in different chats saying like, hey, when are you going to get integrated with these projects? Because I know they're running centralized systems right now, and it's not really like I'm not really confident to put my money there. And I think if more people understood that more publicly, that it is actually a blocker to more liquidity being entered into Cardano space and into these projects just because
Yeah.
of the security, that could be huge, but just have to get that across, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that's pretty much the whole basis behind an oracle is security of data and sort of
Yeah.
trustlessness on the blockchain. I think some people would ask, why would you need to put data on the blockchain and have it sort of validated by nodes when a project can sort of just take the any project can take
Yeah.
an ADA USD feed from somewhere on the internet, or just scrape it themselves off a DEX or something like that. I think people struggle to see why it's a lot more important to have it on chain and validated and trusted.
Yeah. And you're totally right. And some people totally get it, but the masses don't. So, they might not understand. And some of these projects as well, it's hard for them to try and implement because, we're a service provider, we're business, we still have to charge for things. We've tried our best with the Catalyst funding to reduce that charge on new projects. But if you're asking for a lot of custom work, we still have to charge something. We have expenses too, and we don't have a front-facing platform to make money off of, like the projects that we are supplying to. So, you know, we want the ecosystem to get up and running. We are still offering that ADA USD price feed for free. If a project comes and wants ETH or Bitcoin, they can get that too. We're looking at using the Clarity, I think it's Clarity DAO's platform for creating our own, I'd say like chilled out version of a DAO to see like which feed next would you think is good, and like using that gives them another utility to the Charli3 token as well, is to be able to use it as a DAO token for governance voting, which we never planned to do. The Clarity guys just kind of convinced us into it, and I think it'll be really good to have more of a community focus and voice towards what next feeds might be most beneficial, because a while ago I think the reason why we planned to never do that was because I like had my finger on every project that was launching, and understood their needs, and I didn't need to know from other people because I knew myself, and now that's not the case. I would highly value understanding more about different projects from other people if they're able to go out and do that, harness the power of the community outreach through the community instead of just myself. So kind of excited to do that as well and try and offer more free feeds to get more adoption in. But the major problem right now, even after this V2 update, people go, why isn't anyone using you? And I continuously have to specify that if the project hasn't even launched their own solution yet, how are they supposed to use us?
Yeah.
They're not even live. I can't go and buy a potato from the grocery store that's still being built down the street. It just doesn't matter. So that's also just another educational piece. Again, we're not a front-facing platform. You can't just, as soon as the product's up, come in and use it. It's dependent on other businesses, and Cardano is slow in development currently. So, but the exciting thing is this version 2 with all of these sets is ready to go. For anybody who wants it, they just got to contact us. So we're hoping someone comes out of the woodwork, or they get their development up a little bit faster so they can come and talk to us right away. Or the main 3 projects, Indigo, Liquid, and Cody, to refactor their systems to our feeds, which we've been talking to all 3 of them about doing. Mm-hmm. So it's just how and when.
Yeah, sure. So this ADA USD feed, so it's free for anyone to use. How do you actually access the feed? I know this might be going a little bit too technical. How would someone say they're building a project and they want to access this feed? Is it just published on the blockchain for anyone to view, or how would you
So
get access to that data?
yeah, so the biggest thing is really just setting up the datum format to be able to connect to that node aggregation value that's put on chain. How that works, again, with the technicals, I'm not super sure. I just know the high level of it. So we have to connect within, basically, it's just like a back end connection that uses our security, our format to do. And once that's good, you have access to any data that we put on chain. And the nature of the reference inputs on chain means it's open for anybody. So because we can't charge per update like is doable on every other chain out there for oracles, is that it's basically an encrypted set or it's a consumed thing, and then you have to put up another value. The nature of Cardano's
Hmm.
reference inputs and reference scripting is that it's there for anybody infinitely to pull from. Uh, so we plan to do like a transaction, or sorry, a subscription type model, just to say like, hey, we want it
Hmm.
up and running. That's cool. So the more users of the feed, the lower the price per user goes down because we're already making our benefit off of it. So that's exciting. So how to access it though is, yeah, really just be able to get in touch with us, use the datum format. Now, right off the bat here, it is more of a custom job to do, like manual with our team, because we don't have all that documentation out there and whatnot. So that's another really big factor of the documentation that we want, and that we're putting into our development portal to have all of that there. So anytime somebody wants to be able to use it, you'll have full SDKs and documentation on how to properly implement it. And then we can still do a little bit of hand holding through the rest of the process if there's anything that's unclear. So right now it's talk to the team and we'll work with you through it.
Sure, yeah, and I think it's yeah, really important to have sort of documentation out there that developers can go and sort of look at and use, and sort of the more of that's out there for Cardano, the more sort of developers and new people coming into the space are sort of able to get their grasp on what's going on. I know it's sort of very difficult when you start out sort of developing and trying to understand what like all these different datum redeemer scripts are, and especially with like there's quite a lack of documentation on IOHK's side, yeah, in a way. So I
What?
like
No
unless
way.
you did unless you did like the Plutus Pioneer program, like you weren't building anything on Cardano for the first sort of year and a bit because there was just no way that you can learn. And it's quite good now with a lot of third party platforms like Mesh,
Mm.
that are opening it up to people. Um,
Yeah, there's more coming
so
up on the Python side of things too. Eption that's
yeah,
yeah,
Eopsin, yeah.
yeah. We talked to we talked to Niels about that recently because our node network is built in Python. So we found out that each other were doing Python stuff, and we might be building our next product in using Eption instead of our Plutus and Haskell version that we were going to do. So it's exciting because we might get it faster, and more secure.
I mean, I'm all for Python. I'm actually a sort of Python developer myself as well. So when I came to Cardano and saw I had to learn Haskell, I was quite turned off. But now with
You and most people, yeah.
I was just like, no idea what this is. But yeah, with Python and Epson and PyCardano, it's so simple now to sort of get a bare bones sort of project up and running.
Yeah.
You were talking about the sort of the NFT. I just want to sort of maybe understand that a little bit more.
See what I can do.
um how yeah, how so I guess a data feed, and so instead of being an image or an art piece as we're sort of accustomed to an NFT being,
Mm,
the data is the NFT, right?
correct. Yeah. So the data has an NFT set to it. So when the aggregation happens, right, now you have this set of data, and how do you make that untamperable and be able to push it on chain, right? So now it's basically each set of those, each data aggregation set is then minted into an NFT that it has a code to it to be able to check, like a serial code, basically, to say this was updated, this is unchangeable, this is what it is from our Oracle, and then that's put on, or our Oracle node network, and then that's pushed on chain
Hmm.
as basically just being able to read that as an NFT instead, and then it becomes a referenceable, through the back end area.
Right. Okay. So it's basically like it's an ever expanding NFT set
Mhm.
with sort of like one policy ID, but it keeps expanding. Okay, interesting. With these other five different sources of information, where are those coming from?
Yeah, so we initially were mainly taking from Binance or Coinbase, but it's taking from the major centralized exchanges, basically, um, for crypto data to begin with. They have the biggest lists of everything. And remember, we're dealing with off chain data right now, not Cardano native tokens or anything. So it's anything that's not Cardano is what we're pulling on to chain. So right now, our five data sources for crypto data, how we're starting are Binance, Kraken, KuCoin, BitTrue, and Coinbase. And we feel like these guys have a really good, solid track record. Their updates are constant by the nature of how centralized exchanges work. So they're the most secure, I guess, foremost authority on what current data prices or data is on crypto prices. So we're taking from those sets, and if one of those goes down, well, it would take three of them to go down to make the data wrong, and even then, the other two that get published doesn't mean that it's bad, right? So that's why we're taking from those five sources because we think they're the most trustworthy.
Right. So the nodes sort of do a no. Well, it wouldn't be an average, but
No,
it's sort of
it's a
a
median.
like a
Yeah,
median.
yeah. So we take the median amount. So it'll upload those five different prices of ADA on each one of those exchanges, and we take the median. Because if it was an average, we'd have to have a lot of different computations about, if there was a crazy outlier of, what's the, and this is what we tried to do initially, was what's the, unacceptable standard deviation of an outlier within this data set across from the other ones, right? And then it would have to tag that and remove it. And this was going to cause a lot of latency in the progress of how it works. Chainlink
Hmm.
also just does a median data set. So that's what we chose to do as well for speed and efficiency. And honestly, the trustworthiness is still there. So it's still the most kind of averaged between them, but it is still a true value that's being written somewhere instead of us just making it up.
Sure. Okay. Um, so the sort of slightly off topic. There's been a lot of discussion. Well, you don't have to answer this fully, but there's been a lot of discussion in the Cardano community about contingent staking
Mm,
recently, and as we're sort of moving into the governance era of Cardano,
yeah.
and pretty much most projects are trying to build a DAO like you guys are doing, and trying to figure out what actually governance means. What's sort of your opinion? Maybe less on contingent staking. I think sort of the opinions out there have been pretty solidified, but about how the community has sort of reacted around this topic.
Yeah, I think the community overreacts on almost every topic, honestly. There's not a lot of people that understand how to really properly, I'd say, research something, understand their emotional impact from that, and then coordinate their own, actions around that in a, uh, I don't know, calm manner, and to be able to actually just discuss with other people instead of forcing an opinion or not being able to take a different perspective. This is a problem I continually see with community wise, and it's not helped by influencers and other people, or even depending on what Charles has to say about it. I think he made a tweet about it that really sparked off everything, and it's unfortunate to see now. I think people overreacted instead of just being able to really properly discuss it and the benefits and the negatives. If I'm going to touch on one part of it, is just more KYC for these types of things. I'm kind of all for it personally. Like I can't really speak as a company because we haven't like talked about this as a full company, but if I'm going to talk about, say, like a DAO situation, one of the main issues with DAOs and other things is whale activity to be able to fully force a vote. And they go, oh, well, we'll limit it to one wallet per whatever, and sure, but that's not going to work because that whale can just spread their crap over a ton of different wallets. It's the reason we don't really like Oracle pools all that much either, because anyone can run a node. So if you get a malicious group of people together to take over the majority of all node operation, they can completely mess the data up and you have no chance to stop it. So that's what we feel about voting, is that someone could take too many votes away. And the way to stop that is KYC, right? And we have the same thing with our node network, is we'll KYCing every single node operator to make sure that they are who they say they are, and we can trust them, because it really matters for the operation of the chain. So I don't have a problem with that at all. I still think there needs to be some regulation in everything, or else everyone just goes off and becomes a lone ranger, and greed takes over, and anxiety, and emotional overreaction, which is what I see in the community currently. But that's just my own take. I think people need to chill out a little bit.
Yeah, that sort of mirrors my opinions as well. In a way, I'm sort of glad that the whole discussion did happen. It would be, I think, more worrying if no discussion happened at all. But there's sort of the way the discussion happened definitely wasn't wasn't good for sort of promoting Cardano or for anyone's mental health in the ecosystem really at all.
No, it turned a lot of people against each other. I first saw it when it was Pi from Sunday Swap. He posted in our CDA chats, and he's just like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, oh, like, here's some links. And I started reading on, oh no, another big thing. And then like the main voices in the Cardano ecosystem, like community voices, are like pulling at each other back and forth. And it's like, guys, just stop. Just have an actual discussion of why is good and why is not, and take that perspective into account. You don't have to agree, but be civil. It's not like you said, it's not a good look for Cardano when you get zealotry popping in. Cardano is supposed to be a more open, accepting place, and no, I don't know, favoritism. Really, it shouldn't be. Like, yeah, we like Cardano. We're here for a reason, sure. But does that mean that everything else is shit? No. Like, I still really love the stuff that Avalanche is doing, and Algorand as well. Like, those are two great chains that I see operating, and ours is just different. It's just different. It's not bad.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's sort of where I see sort of a semblance of the Cardano community following down the route of sort of the Bitcoin maxis.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get to that sort of point in 4 or 5 years where everyone's sort of Cardano is the only option.
Yeah.
Even though I would be happy with that, but it's
be good on the
it's just not the way it's going to work.
I think the way that Cardano's going is it's still growing pains. I mean, talking about what we just spoke on with Yopsin or Eption, or however you're supposed to say it, and all the other tooling and the side chains and stuff that's coming up, is Cardano still very much so evolving to be more inclusive and adaptable to the rest of what's being built on on blockchain tech in general. So that's where I personally still feel for the future that Cardano's positioned correctly, because as much as there is this chatter on the top level in social media about this kind of stuff that is really concerning, how it's being built and the main narrative that pushes things forwards is more always for inclusivity of all different types of innovation and adoption from all angles. If that wasn't the case, these things for different programming languages and side chains would never be developed. It would just be, no, just use Cardano mainnet. That's it. No anything else, and that's the Bitcoin maxi side of things. That's the maxi side on Ethereum as well. And I'm excited for the future of Cardano if it can be pulled off. The ambition is always so much higher than I would ever expect, and it makes our job as builders very difficult. However, it's very exciting to actually go through it, because I think if you're not slightly scared and a little bit of what you're doing, you're not on the right path, because you're not doing anything different or